wonder murmur where whispers weave the heart.
Hello, little hearts. A new whisper begins. In a village nestled among green hills, where the scent of freshly cut wood and wild blossoms filled the air, lived a kind but lonely man. He was a miller, and he had 3 sons. When the old miller passed away, he left his mill to his 2 older, stronger sons. To his youngest son, a gentle boy named Jean, he left only a scruffy old cat. Jean, sitting alone in the silent mill house, looked at the cat with a heavy heart. "What use is a cat to me?" he sighed, his voice thick with despair. "My brothers have the mill, and I have nothing. I can't even eat you." The cat, who had been lazily watching him, stretched out a paw. "You are quite wrong about me, master," the cat said in a clear, confident voice. "I can be much more valuable to you than you think." Jean's jaw dropped. His eyes widened in disbelief. You can talk?" he stammered. "Of course," the cat replied, a sly grin on his face. "And I can make your fortune. All you need to do is get me 3 things: an empty sack, a hat, and a pair of boots." Jean, though still in shock, decided to trust the talking cat. He found an old sack, a fancy hat he had saved, and a pair of his own worn-out boots. The cat, with a graceful leap, put on the hat and the boots. He looked at himself in a broken mirror, striking a pose. He was now Puss in Boots, a very dashing figure. Puss took the sack and put some fresh lettuce and a carrot inside. He then went to the royal forest, where he hid behind a tree. Not long after, a plump, curious rabbit, drawn by the smell of the fresh vegetables, hopped into the sack. Puss, quick as a flash, pulled the string and tied the sack tight. "Now," he said to himself, a triumphant glint in his eye, "the plan begins." He did not take the rabbit to Jean. Instead, he went straight to the magnificent royal castle. The guards, seeing a talking cat in a hat and boots, were so astonished they immediately led him to the king. "Your Majesty," Puss said, bowing low, "I have brought you a gift from my master, the Prince of Carabaitin. He caught this magnificent rabbit just this morning and wanted to offer it to you as a sign of his great respect." The king, a kind and gentle man, was deeply impressed. "The Prince of Caraba, I have never heard of him. He is a most generous man." Puss continued his ruse for months, bringing the king gifts of rabbits, fish and birds, always from the Prince of Carabas. The king and queen, along with their beautiful daughter, the princess, were fascinated by this mysterious prince. Their curiosity grew into a powerful desire to meet him. "Puss in Boots," the king said one day, "tell me about this prince of yours. Is he young?" "Oh, yes, Your Majesty," Puss replied with a wink. "Young and very handsome indeed." "Is he rich?" the queen asked. "Very rich, Your Highness," Puss said, puffing out his chest. "He would be honored to welcome you to his castle." The king and queen, now convinced they had found the perfect husband for their daughter, decided to go for a carriage ride, hoping to meet the prince. Puss, knowing their route, ran all the way back to Jean. "Master," Puss cried, "this is the day. We must go to the riverbank immediately." Jean, confused as ever, followed the cat. "Why are we going to the river? I can't swim." "It is better that you can't," Puss said with a sly smile. "Trust me and do as I say. Take off your clothes and jump into the river now." Jean, having no reason not to trust his clever cat, did as he was told. He jumped into the river, and Puss quickly hid his old dirty clothes behind a bush. Just then, the king's magnificent carriage came down the road. Puss in Boots, with a look of pure panic on his face, ran in front of the carriage. "Help! Help! My master, the Prince of Caraba, is drowning. Thieves have stolen all his clothes." The king, hearing this, immediately ordered his men to rescue the young man. Jean was pulled from the river, confused and shivering. The king, full of pity, ordered his men to bring the prince some of the finest clothes from his own trunk. In his new regal clothing, Jean was transformed. He looked like a real prince, and when the princess saw him, her heart skipped a beat. The young man, still in a daze, bowed to the king. "I cannot thank you enough, your majesty," he said, his voice quiet but full of gratitude. "The Prince of Caraba's castle is at your service," Puss said quickly, to keep the deception going. "I must go now to prepare for your arrival." Puss then ran as fast as his boots could carry him toward a magnificent castle that belonged to a monstrous giant. He found farmers working in the fields, and with a terrifying scowl on his face, he shouted, "The king is coming. If he asks you who owns this land, you must say it belongs to the Prince of Caraba. If you don't, he will punish you." The farmers, terrified of the talking cat, promised they would. Puss in Boots arrived at the giant's castle, his heart pounding. The giant, a hulking creature with a face as monstrous as his temper, opened the door. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" he roared. "I am a humble servant, your highness," Puss said, bowing low. "I have heard of your great magical abilities. I heard you can transform yourself into any animal you want." "Is it true?" The giant laughed a monstrous laugh. "Of course it is. I can turn into a huge lion." With a puff of smoke, he transformed into a giant roaring lion. Puss, a little frightened, jumped back. "Amazing! That is truly amazing, but I bet you can't turn into a small animal. Something small, like a mouse." The giant's pride was his greatest weakness. "A mouse? I can turn into any animal I want," he bellowed. With a flash of magic, the monstrous giant transformed into a tiny mouse. That was all Puss needed. Quick as a cat, he pounced on the mouse and ate him with a single gulp. The castle and all the giant's lands now belonged to the Prince of Caraba. Just then, the king's carriage arrived. Puss ran to the king. "Your Majesty, the Prince of Caraba's castle is at your service. Please come in." The king, queen, and princess were all in awe of the magnificent castle and the vast lands that belonged to this handsome young prince. "My dear prince," the queen said, "are you married?" "No, your highness," Jean said, looking at the princess. "But if you would allow me to marry your beautiful daughter, I promise to make her very happy." The princess, who had fallen in love with his kind eyes and gentle smile, immediately said yes. A grand feast was prepared, and soon after, the Prince of Caraba and the princess were married. Puss in Boots, having made his master's fortune, became a trusted advisor, a true friend, and a loyal servant. He had shown that a creative mind and a determined spirit are more valuable than any inheritance, and a good friend is worth more than all the gold in the world.
Wonder murmur, the story departs, yet the whisper imparts.